Good afternoon and welcome to my case brief. This is Danielle Fitzpatrick and I'm doing this for my class SED 420. The case I have chosen is Parents versus Child Developmental Services, also known as CDS. Facts of the case. The parents felt that there was a violation of the Individuals Disabilities Act, IDEA. They filed a motion on behalf of their son for a due process hearing request. CDS filed a motion to have it be dismissed. The request was denied by the hearing officer. There was a pre-hearing telephone conference held. CDS felt that their materials were protected by attorney-client privilege. The hearing officer granted the parents' request that the hearing be made open to the public. Issue 1. Did CDS violate IDEA by failing to add the phrase "at risk" in Section 5A of the Student's Individual Education Plan, known as the IEP, on September 29th of 2017? If so, did CDS violate the IDEA? If so, did it prevent the student from receiving a free, appropriate public education, known as FAPE? If so, what shall be the remedy? Holding Issue 1. The parties settled on this issue at the due process hearing. The parties agreed to modify the annual IEP, page 4, at Section 5A, present level of academic performance, to read as followed. There are no special education needs in his academic areas at this time. He is at risk for a specific learning disability. His skills will be monitored through the curriculum in the classroom. Issue 2. Did the IEP team agree to include extended year services in the IEP date, September 29, 2017? If so, did CDS fail to include ESY services in the IEP date, September 29, 2017, in violation of the IDEA? If so, does the failure include ESY services in the student's IEP prevent the student from receiving a FAPE? If so, what shall be the remedy? Holding Issue 2. A. The officer decided that CDS failed to include ESY services in the IEP. The officer finds that a procedural violation, IDEA, occurred when CDS failed to include ESY services in the IEP. C. The officer finds that CDS committed a procedural violation by not including ESY in the annual IEP. D. The officer finds that CDS must amend the annual IEP to include ESY services. Rationality Issue 2. In Rhines versus the New York City Department of Education, the Second Circuit Court of Appeal determined that the Office of the State reviewed error when it accredited testimony of a school's witness who explained that while there was a recommendation to provide for only 3 months of one-on-one paraprofessional support, the IEP team did not include it based upon the understanding that the student needed for additional support would be reassessed and expanded as needed. The court found that it was inappropriate to take into accountability the possibility of mid-year amendments in determining whether the annual IEP as originally formulated was substantial adequate. Issue 3. A. Did CDS fail to develop an annual IEP that included special education and related services for a full year? B. If so, did CDS violate the IDEA? C. If so, did the violation prevent the student from receiving a FAPE? If so, what shall be the remedy? Holding Issue 3. A. CDS failed to draft the annual IEP to include programming through June 30th of 2018 as agreed upon by the IEP team. B. The officer finds CDS committed a procedural violation of the IED by drafting the IEP to provide SDI. C. That the flawed IEP has not prevented the student from receiving FAPE. D. That the annual IEP must be corrected to reflect SDI provided through June 30th. The rationality is issues 3. Muser requires that if the student will be transitioning to public schools from CDS, an annual IEP will be developed before transition IEP meeting takes place. CDS understood this and scheduled the student's annual IEP team meeting to develop the annual IEP. This is the IEP that the student would carry with him to public school, along with any amendment made at the transition meeting between the district and CDS, sometime between April 1st and June 15th. Muser units until such time that the district becomes involved in the IEP process. CDS had no choice but to draft the IEP according to the determinations made by the IEP team. Issue 4. A. Did CDS fail to allow the parents to meaningful participation in determining the student's special education instructions and related services in the IEP decision-making to develop the student's IEP date, September 29, 2017? If so, did CDS violate the IDEA? If so, did CDS actions prevent the student from receiving FAPE? D. If so, what shall be the remedy? Holding issues 4. A. CDS conducted the IEP meeting on September 29, 2017 with full participation of the parents. The mother was engaged in the 2-hour discussion. B. The office finds no violation of the IDEA with respect to the parents' participation in the IEP process. Remedy. The officer finds that the corrective action plan is necessary. The procedural violations in this matter, CDS must take the following actions within 7 days of the recipe of this decision in order. 1. Include ESY services in the student's annual IEP. Indicate that the frequency and duration will be determined by the IEP team at the transition meeting. 2. Change the date of SDI and related services to end June 30th, 2018 per the determination of the IEP team. 3. Schedule a transition meeting during the month of April 2018 in order to determine any amendments to the annual IEP. Ensure that all necessary IEP members are present. Notify the due process office in writing immediately after each one of these actions has been taken place. Critical thinking question. Why would it be important for CDS to have included the school district as a member of the student's IEP?